I don't know, this is ninth grade, we're doing some back reviewing and notes for Song of Roland. When it says being sung, that's what it says. Remember, these songs were really more recited than sung, and they were recited by professionals. And they were accompanied by music. So the Battle of Hastings, one of the great battles in history. The Battle of Wontavo was one of the great battles in history. So we have written records of that happening. We don't know the author. It's the retelling of the legend. So the only facts in the book are the ones that I gave you at the beginning. There's a skeleton outline of facts, and everything else is made up. It is the most famous and the earliest of the chansons de geste, which are songs of deeds. This is a series of poems about these knights, these French knights. I don't know how many there were, but this is the only one. There's one mentioned in the book. So some of the people in the book had their own chansons de geste. It means songs of deeds. And this is the song of Roland. It's an epic poem about 1,000 lines longer than Beowulf. Beowulf had about 3,000 lines, 3,200. This has 4,000. It's a quick, moving story, emphasis on action. So if you like action, there's a lot of it here. There are very few ideas. There's a lot of action. And there are minimum stage directions and comments by the narrator. The narrator doesn't say much, but you do learn pretty quickly when he does comment that he's biased. He doesn't like the Muslims, and he's all French all the time. So he's very biased, and you have to read it with that in mind. You say, well, those are the words of a biased narrator. As long as you understand bias, you can handle it. If you're fooled by it and you think these are the facts, then that's when you have a problem. But as long as the guy's biased, naturally he'd say that. I can still listen to him, but that hurts your credibility if you go into something too biased. We all have certain bias. Okay, that's hard for me to tell. You finished writing? Can I go?
No.
Well, that's what I need to know. Get used to it. Retire the rest of your life. Yeah, it is going to be. How about it? Besides those who just started taking notes, anybody else? All right, let me move on. Try to keep up, all right? All right, characters. These are the good guys. These are the heroes. The Christians are all the heroes except for one. We'll look at him in a minute. But in this book, the Christians are the heroes and the Muslims are not. Okay, here are the people that you need to remember. Major people. Charlemagne, he's not the main character. Roland is. Charlemagne, and I think these are good words to describe him. He's old. He's 200 years old. He's wise. He's brave. Should be a comma there. He's devout. He has strong faith, and he's physically strong. Roland, he's brash. What does that mean?
He's very, he doesn't really think before he does.
Good. Right. He'll act on his emotions, yeah.
I was wondering, why is back in way back when people used to live much longer, medicine's gotten better. Why is that?
One more time, what's the question?
People way back when lived much longer, 200 years, but.
Well, this is not true.
Yeah, but even Abraham lived for a really long time and all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, Why do you think? I mean,
God said a cut on time, right? Like no one will live longer than like 120 years.
after those early, yes, after those early days, he saw, I always look at it this way, what was there to, I mean, Adam died, but what was there to kill him? It was a perfect world. I mean, he eventually died because of sin, but there was nothing to kill Adam. He lived 900 years. Methuselah lived even longer than that. I think we die because we get sick, and the food we eat, kind of. I had a professor of philosophy at Chapel Hill said, milk has something in it that'll kill you, but it would take 130 years to kill you. So, nobody's going to live that long anyway. So it's more, the risk is less than the benefit. It certainly benefits us, but it also is things in milk. I just took the guy's word for it. I don't know what any of the details, but even the food we eat ultimately kind of works against us. But the risk is less than the benefits. All right, so Roland, brash, confident, loyal, outspoken. Oliver, he's one of the best friends. Think about a movie where you had two guys, two best friends. There are all sorts of movies and shows. Well, that's what you got here. You got Roland and Oliver. They're just two buddies that do everything together, but they're different. You'll see that Oliver is wise. Roland is bold. It's that sort of difference. Oliver's more cautious than Roland. Bishop Turpin is a priest. He's a warrior priest. He'll pray for you, then run you through with his sword. And then the 12 peers, these are the Knights of the Round Table. It's the best of the best.
The flower of friendship.
Yeah. By the way, we'll notice that some of the soldiers have flowers on their not their armor, but their clothes. That seems odd. Flowers seem dainty and feminine, and here these soldiers wearing flowers. Do you have any idea where that flower comes from, or why is there a flower? You don't see the British with flowers or Americans. What's the flower in French?
Well, isn't there, well, isn't it oh my God.
Oh, yeah, no.
No. Well, does the, fleur de lis have anything to do with it?
That's what it's called, yeah.
The symbol for like royalty of
Right.
like, or like status.
Anybody ever seen an NFL team called the New Orleans Saints?
Yes.
What's on the side of their helmet?
Same.
A
Well,
snail.
the
It's like a
flower.
flower.
I don't
The
know.
flower that's on the French soldiers at Roncevaux, the same basically flower. It's the fleur de lis. New Orleans is heavily influenced by the French Quarter. The French owned it at one point. They overlooked Mississippi. We had to buy it from. I don't know if we got that from Napoleon. Remember, we bought the what is that? The Louisiana Purchase. We bought
Oh yeah.
millions of acres for like pennies. Jefferson did that. So the French were very heavily influenced in Louisiana. Anyway, the flower and the French go together. They're awesome. They've been awesome warriors over the years. All right, here are the bad guys. They are the pagans. Now, what is a pagan?
Someone who's not Christian.
Someone worships
Multiple gods.
I couldn't hear you.
That's
multiple
policy.
God worshiper.
All right, literally, it would be a multiple god worshiper, but we use it more broadly to say, like I think the Muslims would call us pagans. We call them pagans. And we'll get into Islam more as we go along, because this book does not understand Islam. The writers of this book did not understand Islam, and so they portray it as something that it's not, and we'll get into that later. Ganelon, he's a Christian. He's a Frenchman, but he's a villain. He's a betrayer. He's a traitor. When we read Inferno, we'll meet Ganelon in hell. He's in hell. He's mentioned in Dante's Inferno. Even though he's a made-up character, Dante populates hell with real people and made-up people. Achilles is in hell. He's not a real person, but he shows up in Dante's Inferno.
So why is he in Dante's Inferno? Why is he in hell? Is it because he was a traitor, or is it something that?
I think that's where he is. He's in hell, just like, I mean, Dante gets that part right. Anybody's in hell who's not a believer in Jesus Christ.
I thought he was a Christian.
Well, he's Christian in name. You know what I mean? I mean, you can call yourself a Christian, but have you really been saved? You know, I called myself a Christian, then I realized I didn't have any idea what the gospel was. Then I became a Christian. So I'd have called myself a Christian until I was 18, and then I became one. Yeah.
So you said something about they think we're pagan. Is that because we technically, they think that we worship the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, so it's like three different things?
Well, you know, the Muslims believe in Allah. They have the Quran. We talked about that. Didn't we talk about the Quran? The origin of the Quran?
No, but it's.
Dr. Talbot will go through all that. It's fascinating.
We read an excerpt from that, I believe.
Well, he will go into the origins. I will say this, the Quran, as I understand it, was delivered, this is how they see it, by the angel Gabriel to one person in a cave, and that person was Muhammad. One angel, one person, no witnesses, just here it is. The Bible was written over thousands of years by dozens and dozens of authors, and yet it tells a consistent story. So there's a lot of reason to trust in the Bible. I think that's would have been my problem at your age. How can I trust this book? It's just a book. It took me a while to realize, man, it's not just a book. And there's lots and lots of reasons, just from an earthly standpoint, a logical standpoint, to believe it. Ultimately, it has to be by faith. But it's not blind faith. We can believe the Bible for a lot of reasons, and that's one of them, is that it tells this consistent story, dozens of witnesses, thousands of years, as opposed to some other works of Scripture, one person, one cave, one angel. This is it. And there's no witnesses. So anyway, he is a Christian by name, but because he's a traitor, and he's made up, he's not a real person. But he's in hell because he's being punished because he's a traitor. Marcillian, he's an important king, and Balagan, he's over this guy. This guy, it's his boss, so to speak. This is the boss. It doesn't work that way in real life, but that's. All right, here's some themes: East versus West, Christianity versus Islam. A constitutional king, Charlemagne, a king. What do you think that means? A constitutional king.
Like the king that's on like paper, like. Does that make
Well,
sense?
the king that has limitations, a limited king, because the Constitution is something that limits him. Marcillian is an absolute dictator. He has no limits. He can do whatever he wants to. There's no document saying, hey, you can't do that. Charlemagne would have had such a limit. He doesn't have absolute power. The kings of England, now they have no power really, but even before that, but after the, what's the document?
The document.
The Magna Carta, thank you. After that was signed, the British kings had limits. And we took that even further. We don't even have one ultimate leader. We have three leaders. We have three branches of government, and they have equal power. So power needs limits. Power needs boundaries. And Marcillian has none, but Charlemagne supposedly does. You will learn about feudalism in Dr. Talbot's class. That's That was the deal after the Roman Empire fell. Nature abhors a vacuum. So after you have this powerful entity called the Roman Empire, it doesn't exist anymore. People don't just live in chaos. They create systems now to live under, and the system was feudalism. Vassalage is a part of feudalism, and it's when, you know, the vassal, the servant, is, and when I say servant, it could be like Beowulf was a vassal to Hygelac. He was Hygelac's thing. So he was subservient to his king, and there was a bond there. Brave warriors and heroic deeds, and chivalry. Chivalry is that code of conduct that developed in the Middle Ages, that knights acted a certain way, had to perform certain deeds.
I mean, it's pretty much just like ethic, like morals kind of.
Yes, yes, sort of codified into this code, this set of rules that we call chivalry. I don't think there's much more. We're about to leave anyway. Let me just see what we've got left. We got verse. Okay, I've got these terms. Yeah, we've got those at the end. Yeah, we had the terms on the other sheet, and there was on the test, and that hurt some of you. I mean, there were 3 points each, and that hurt. So please don't ignore anything that I'm giving you here. So we'll finish this tomorrow. You have your book. You're working on the vocabulary. I'm grading your papers. Everything's right with the world. That's if everything goes right? Nobody knows what's really going to happen this week. I hope nobody got hurt. Any of the ladies get hurt Saturday?
No, it wasn't that intense.
Good.
To get hurt.